this is a trinomial. It doesn't have a GCF. Look for two numbers that multiply to be 33, but that would add to be 8. Add or subtract to be 8. What are factors of 33? 11 and 3. One of them will need to be negative. Which one would be the negative? 3. So our two factors would be c plus 11, c minus 3, all over our denominator. And then our final answer would just be c plus 11. Okay. Take a minute or two if you need to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, stand, stretch before we do Unit 10. Starting on Unit 10, what questions do we have on that first page? So part of this we'll do by hand, and then the other part we're going to do on the calculator. First, we have to find our axis of symmetry. The formula to do that is x equals negative b over 2a. So in number 6, if I was using this formula, I don't have a b. Remember that this is given to you as ax squared plus bx plus c. I have a, I have c, I don't have b. So when I start to set this up, it's going to be x equals negative 0, I don't have a b, over 2 times negative 2. What would that axis of symmetry be? 0. X equals, always make it x equals as an equation. And that's going to be the middle of your table. You can fill out your x values, go forwards and backwards and forwards. In your calculator, go into y equals and type this equation, negative 2x squared minus 3. Make sure you're using a negative first and then a minus second. And then go into your table, second graph. And then find those values that you put in. So negative 21, negative 11, negative 5, negative 3. And then it repeats. I'm going to graph the negative 11s, but don't worry about the negative 21s. They wouldn't go on this graph. So to the best of your ability, go ahead and graph those points. Negative 11 would just be 1 off the graph. This should be a U shape that has arrows at the ends. Your vertex is that point in the middle, 0, negative 3. Your domain is all your x values, left to right. Remember, you have to imagine that this keeps going down and left, down and right forever, never in both directions. So that's all real numbers. You can write it either way. Negative infinity to infinity, or in set notation. X such that x is an element of all numbers. Either one. Your domain for quadratics will always be the same. The range will be different. You're looking at your y values, lowest to highest. Lowest starts at negative infinity. Highest point, you could look at your vertex to help you find that, but it's going to be negative 3. Thank you. In interval notation, that's going to be a square bracket because it's included. In set notation, that's everything less than or equal to -3. So again, either or. The zeros or x-intercepts, does this have any? No, it does not cross the x-axis at all. So you would put NA or none, don't put 0. Do we have any other questions on this page or questions about that one? For the ones that you're not graphing, you need to show the setup of how you find the axis of symmetry and how you find the vertex. But whether you do that in the calculator and the table by hand is up to you. So the setup would be similar. X equals negative, we don't have a b, -0 over 2 times 1. What would that axis of symmetry be? X equals 0. And then once you find that, you're going to show setup purposes. Take that number, put it in for your x, or all of your x's. And then either solve that in your calculator by hand, in your table, in the calculator. What would that y value be? 9, so that ordered pair would be 0, -9. Let's go on to page 2. So page 2 is still 10.1, but it's now graphing your exponential functions. What questions do we have there? Cross out asymptote and the end behavior. So I forgot to do that for that one. Just for not doing that. You could find these values by hand, or you could use the calculator. It does not matter. I'm going to start with 5 values. If I need more, I'll go back and find more. But the 5 values will be -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And I'm going to type this into my calculator. In y equals. Make sure you use this top hat, caret, whatever you call this, to put the x plus 1 up there, and then use the arrow to come back down. And then once you have that in there, go into your table. And you're going to list out the values that we needed. -2 to 2, 4.25, 4.5, 5, 6, 8. And you're going to plot those 5. best of your ability. It should make a curve that looks kind of like an L or a backwards L. In your table, as you keep going up, you'll see it gets closer and closer to 4. Eventually it just says 4, but remember, if we were on Desmos, it would look like it's going, it's not actually touching 4. So it needs to get really, really close to 4, but not actually touch it. Mine looks like it's touching it, but. So then for our domain, left to right, this keeps going left, this keeps going up and right, so domain is all real numbers. Whichever way you want to write that, do that. Your range will always have a lowest and highest. The lowest will be wherever that's getting really, really close to, so 4. And then it keeps going up. Or everything greater than 4. Can't say equal to because it doesn't actually touch 4. And then what's the y-intercept? 5, 0. So all of that is mainly calculator. Now, if you get 5 points on the table that are really, really close together, you may want to look back at the table and add in more points. For sake of time, we're going to move on. We're going to skip the 2 questions on the top of page 3 and go to page 5 first, and then come back and do any perfect basket questions. So all of your solving quadratic equations by factoring. Are there any of those that we have questions on? So anytime you have a problem like this, if you wanted to check it in your calculator, it has to be set up equal to 0. To do that, move your terms to wherever your x squared term would be positive. So I'm going to move them both to the left by subtracting. So we have x squared plus x minus 72 equals 0. You factor the trinomial or whatever's on the left like normal. So this is a trinomial where a equals 1, so we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 72, but add to be 1. What are factors of 72? And in this case, we could use this if the 8 was negative. So I'm going to make my 2 factors, x plus 9, x minus 8, still set it equal to 0. Then drop the parentheses, set both factors equal to 0 individually. Solve both equations. So these ones, anytime you get an x plus a number or x minus a number, it's always going to be the opposite. So you could actually solve this, but the opposite of this would be negative 9. The opposite of this would be positive 8. And you would write that final answer in curly brackets. Least to greatest. If you wanted to check yourself in the calculator, you could put this equation in without the equal 0 part, and it would tell you where it crosses the x-axis. So you could tell if your answers are right, but that wouldn't help you with the work. In this problem, you could write them as your answers and then write them in factor form and work backwards, but that's not always the case. Okay, so the main thing here is to make sure you factor and then set your factors equal to 0. Look at the next page. Are there any curve and best fit questions we want to see you go over? Okay, so for this, we want to use our exponential model. So I will show this, I'll let you guys choose, in Desmos or in the calculator. Remember, you can use Desmos for this section. In Desmos, okay. I just need to double check if I changed the years or not. I want to say I did, but I can't remember. See years, change them. The first one is 0. The next one is how many years has it been since, and then keep going. And then in Desmos, I'm going to type in all of those. By adding in a table, adding in those values. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of time so that we can go back and practice this afterwards. This said to use the exponential model. So that's think about your equation for an exponential. Y equals a times b to the x. So you would use y1 tilde a times b raised to the x power, x1 power. And then this would be our equation. We would write that as part of our answer. Y equals 400.097. It doesn't say what to round to, so let's just use all of them. Times 1.09, I'm going to round 095. Raised to the x. And then estimate the value of the stock in 2025. So we have to figure out how many years has it been from 98 to 25. You could subtract that or keep counting, but it should be 27. And then you would type in x equals 27. And find where those two lines cross. And that would be our answer. 4,627.95. any general questions before I give you a little bit of time to practice? Reminder, if you didn't turn in your JLabs or 8-ball packet, I need those as soon as possible. Go back and practice your Delta Math on these 5 objectives. Let me know if you have any questions. You can practice or grab your phones for the results.